Tonight we have with us RASPO, which stands for Reading All Steel Percussion Orchestra, named in commemoration of TASPO, the very first steel band to be heard live in the UK. And this was at the Festival of Britain in 1951, when the Queen invited her Commonwealth to come and take part in the Festival of Britain to showcase what wonderful diversity the Commonwealth held. And they played not just calypso, which is the traditional music from Trinidad, but they also played some classical music. And this was much to the amazement of the audience. It's also worth remembering that the origins of steelpan weren't so wonderful prior to this turning point, which was at the Festival of Britain, because steelpan was an instrument of rebellion and resistance. It came from many years before, when drums were banned in Trinidad. This was to do with slavery, because the colonial masters, so to speak, felt nervous about the fact that these people could communicate using their instruments. So the people took to using bamboo to make sound, and they would hollow out the bamboo and then drop it on the ground. It was called tambu bamboo, and you'd get this range of quite deep resonant notes. And they didn't like that either. So then the steelpan came about, but people had to hide to be able to play. Discarded oil drums were littered the beaches and the streets of this beautiful island. And the islanders, the people that lived there, decided they wanted to do something useful with it. And, you know, used it as a percussion instrument and banged it with sticks or bits of metal. One day there was a dent, somebody made a dent in one, and it created two different sounds, and it evolved from there. And now we have these beautiful chromed instruments with 32 notes in perfect pitch, A440, the same as all the other instruments, that can play absolutely any type of music and are now popular all around the world. There's steelpans in every continent, virtually every country.
The objects that I have around me are just some of the objects that we've been using to celebrate our 70th anniversary. Objects that connect in some way with 1951, with the establishment of the Museum of English Rural Life in that year, and with the Festival of Britain, which also happened in 1951. So it's brilliant to have RASPO here this evening, celebrating the legacy of another creative moment rooted in 1951, connected to the Festival of Britain and to the arrival of TASPO and the performance of TASPO in that context. What I have here is a cartoon design from a series of wall hangings that were created by Michael O'Connell for the Festival of Britain. So this cartoon was the basis for a large textile artwork, one of which we have on display in our galleries. This textile artwork was 46 metres long, and it hung in a sort of undulating curtain wall at the back of the country pavilion. So this would have been one of the buildings that would have been a backdrop to where TASPO performed in 1951 to the London crowds. We also have strawcraft made by an artist called Fred Misen. These are original pieces that hung in the country pavilion. We have another piece of artwork created by Michael O'Connell with the logo of the Festival of Britain. It probably wasn't ever displayed in the Festival of Britain itself, but is an example of the kind of practice he was developing in order to create these huge artworks, these monumental pieces of artwork. And then we have a series of other cartoons right at the front there that are designs for a carousel style structure, a merry-go-round style art structure that told the story of life in the countryside throughout the year. So as well as the prehistory, the cartoon designs of the wall hangings and the country year, the practice work of Michael O'Connell for those huge textile pieces, we also can tell a little bit about the afterlife of those objects after that moment of mid-century creativity. We know what happened to these strawcraft pieces. They were on display. And we know what happened to the wall hangings. Although just before they came to Reading, they took a journey southward and they went off to South Africa. And we didn't know quite why this was, but we've done a little bit of digging and we've established that they were taken there to be part of another big national exposition called Van Riebeck's Festival. And this was a problematic exposition because it was a celebration at the moment of the creation of apartheid. Those displays, Van Riebeck's festival, including the UK pavilion and a sort of full-scale reconstruction of an English village, were much protested and were a moment of resistance, the beginning of a resistance that led to the solid establishment of political organisations like the ANC. So there's a story of protest that some of these objects connect to that seems a little strange, because immediately after that they came to Reading and found a home here at the MERL, and that history was forgotten. We found out about that and other aspects of the history of these objects in this celebratory year.